queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop. She don't miss nothing, got the scoop on lock. Spilling all the tea while it's still too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop. See, bell, it's nothing. Got the scoop on lock. Spilling all the tea while it's still too hot. Lakeysha Keysha, queen of the plot. Hit that bell, cause the tea don't stop.
Hey guys, we are back again, and this time we are talking about Donald Trump. I don't normally talk about politics on my other pages, but I did yesterday, and I encourage my followers that if you guys want to hear about politics, make sure you're following me on my page on YouTube. I am also streaming on Twitch and Kick, so welcome everybody that's here from Twitch and Kick, and I'm also streaming on my second YouTube channel. Now, I want us to know about what's going on with these politics because, as y'all probably already know, Donald Trump is running a damn muck. Now, let's kind of get into where it is all coming from. So Donald Trump and his administration had promised some time ago to release the Epstein files. And if you guys have been seeing anything on the news, you know that he has not released the Epstein files. In fact, Donald Trump has done everything but release the Epstein files. So what everybody is starting to believe is Donald Trump is conjuring up a bunch of bullshit because he just doesn't want to release those files. Why doesn't Donald Trump want to release the Epstein files? Well, think about it. Donald Trump is an idiot all for himself. He's going to do whatever he needs to do to protect himself. He don't give a damn about you. He don't give a damn about me. Donald Trump cares about nobody but his fat, flabby, nasty ass. That's the only thing he care about. And allegedly underage girls or kids. Okay, that's what he cares about. So now Donald Trump has deployed the military to Washington, D.C. And listen, y'all, if you didn't know that Donald Trump, with his slow ass, I mean, anybody with 34 felonies is definitely slow. He wants to become a king of some sort. So what he's doing is he's distracting from everything. He doesn't want to release the Epstein files, but he got his sick ass all the way in DC keeping up a bunch of BS that is meaningless. Why you people can't afford food, why people are on the streets, can't pay their rent or their mortgage, people done lost their job. This idiot, the only thing he cares about is creating more drama and more bullshit. So let's get into what is really going on here. What are they saying about all this BS that Donald Trump is lying about, saying he needs to take over DC?
Robberies are down 39%, armed carjackings are down 53%, assaults with a dangerous weapon are down 27%. In Washington, D.C., the rates of burglaries and assaults with a dangerous weapon are at their lowest point in 30 years.
Okay, did you guys hear that? Washington, D.C. crime is down to the lowest point that it's ever been in 30 years. So why do your delusional, slow, mentally ill president, that instead of lowering the cost for the American people, he got his dumb, stupid, idiotic in DC just creating more problems because he just doesn't want to release the Epstein files. Why doesn't Donald Trump want to release the Epstein file? What do you think? He has to be in the Epstein files.
Nevertheless, because he's so tough on crime, President Trump today deployed hundreds of National Guardsmen and women into Washington, D.C. Send the U.S. military to become the police force in Washington, D.C. The lead in the Washington Post tonight, quote, President Donald Trump announced today that he is placing the D.C. police under direct federal control and will deploy the National Guard to the streets of Washington, an extraordinary flex of federal power that stripped city leadership of its ability to make law enforcement decisions and could expose residents of the nation's capital to unpredictable encounters with a domestically deployed military force. A domestically deployed military force. Because tough on crime. You think it's really about crime? You think it's really about being tough on crime? Do you want to maybe track down the axe and machete triple murderer Trump just released to the streets of Orlando to go ask him if he thinks it's about being tough on crime? Or you maybe want to pop in to ask Ghislaine at that Bureau of Prisons crown jewel facility that kind of looks like a community college? You want to go ask her? Think it's because he's so tough on crime? That said, I mean, let's be generous here. Maybe it's not really just a generic tough on crime thing. Maybe it's specifically because it's D.C., which is the seat of the U.S. federal government. So even for a city enjoying a 30-year low in violent crime, maybe that's still just an intolerable amount of crime, specifically because it's D.C., and D.C. is where the federal government is, and maybe he's just really sensitive about protecting the federal government. Maybe he's really sensitive and really focused when it comes to protecting the seat of the federal government from any kind of crime. January 6th, no, forget about that. He's just sensitive about it now. Maybe that's it. Well, let's see. Today's Monday. On Friday, this happened. A sustained violent attack on the headquarters of the federal government Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. See all those little pockmarks, those little holes? Those are bullet holes in the CDC. The gunman reportedly tried to get into the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. Security guards turned him away. He then drove to a nearby business, a nearby pharmacy, and took up a shooting position there. The Associated Press reports today that the man fired more than 180 shots into the headquarters of the Centers for Disease Control. More than 180 shots fired. He was found with 5 guns, including 4 long guns, and bullets that he fired at the CDC broke at least 150 windows. The bullets pierced blast-resistant windows in multiple buildings and spat glass shards into multiple offices. 1 police officer was killed. The gunman died as well. It's not clear if he shot himself or was shot by law enforcement. It is a miracle, obviously, that CDC personnel other than the police officer protecting them were not killed. The head of the agency that includes the CDC, Donald Trump's health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, posted this online after the shooting. Then he posted this one as well. This is what he was posting the day after the shooting at the CDC, when a gunman fired more than 180 bullets into the headquarters of the Centers for Disease Control. This was the reaction of the man in charge of that agency. This was his response. It wasn't until later and after he finished posting his fishing pictures that he got around to expressing condolences for the, shooting or whatever. This major attack on a federal government facility, again, 180 shots fired into the CDC. This major attack on a federal government facility has so far garnered no response whatsoever from President Donald Trump, let alone an armed response into Atlanta, where the CDC headquarters is. But he did send in the National Guard to Washington, D.C. today.
Donald Trump does not give a care about nobody but himself. How many times must I say this? Donald Trump is exactly what's wrong with the U.S. cream of wheat.
Because tough on crime, you think? Maybe it's not about crime. Maybe it's not about defending the federal government from threats, right? Maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's not about crime. Maybe it's not about any other thing he might voice. Maybe it's what you can see with your own two eyes. Maybe it's that he really enjoys using U.S. military force against American civilians on American soil and wants any excuse to do it anywhere he can. Watch what they do, not what they say. Because, I mean, given what else he's done on the issue of crime, does it make sense that him sending in the troops for a military takeover of Washington, D.C. is about crime? I mean, that's what he said. But what do you think based on what he's done? Because meanwhile, while he's talking about crime, he has sent in the National Guard and active duty U.S. Marines to Los Angeles as well, right? Supposedly to save that city from protests against him. That deployment was so inexplicable and so palpably disconnected from its purported justifications that the LA Times reported on a spike in calls to the GI rights hotline, with military personnel telling that hotline they didn't want to be deployed to point guns at citizens. Military personnel telling that hotline they, quote, didn't want to be on the side of being armed occupiers in their own country. The New York Times reported the troops recoiling from Trump's use of them in Los Angeles in more pungent terms, quote, at least one company commander and one battalion commander who objected to the mission were reassigned to work unrelated to the mobilization. Some troops became so disgruntled that there were several reports of soldiers defecating in Humvees and in the showers at the Southern California base where the troops are stationed, prompting tightened bathroom security. Tightened bathroom security. Despite that military triumph in Los Angeles, we've now got Trump using military bases now all over the country to hold massive new immigrant prison camps, which he is planning on military bases at Fort Bliss in Texas and Camp Atterbury in Indiana and Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey. Trump has also expanded huge swaths of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona into what he's calling, quote, military zones, in which he's legally expanded the boundaries of local military bases into huge hundreds of miles long territories, where he's now given U.S. active duty troops the instruction and authority to stop and search and arrest Americans on domestic U.S. soil. Watch what they do, not what they say. He wants U.S. military force deployed on U.S. soil facing inward as a show of force to the American people about what he and the government can do to you. People in D.C. are already protesting against it. This was just today. Just as people in Los Angeles protested against it when Trump tried it there as well. This weekend, people protested in Los Angeles against ongoing immigration raids and arrests there. Those protests have not stopped in Los Angeles, with or without the National Guard and the Marines there to try to scare everyone into not protesting. People protested in Columbus, Ohio this weekend as well. Hands along High Street, they called it. Protest in Columbus, Ohio, where protesters lined the streets for 8 solid miles, protesting against what Trump is doing. This woman in Florida is 104 years old. She has been protesting every week, every Thursday with her neighbors and friends. Her sign in this picture says, it says here, girls just want to have fun. Ding for scientific research. She's 104. She'll be 105 years old this week. And she is protesting against the Trump administration 1 out of her every 7 days. What are you doing with your life, you spring chicken? When Donald Trump sent troops to Los Angeles this summer on the absurd pretext that some kind of war was on, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and other LA officials didn't just protest against it and try to stop it. They also warned the country that, yeah, he's doing this to us first, but it's going to be you next. They were clear-eyed about that. They were right. And we clearly are now in the part of the attempted authoritarian takeover where our
Pay attention, attempted takeover. I told y'all this. Donald Trump wants to be a king. He is a nut, a complete idiot. This is unbelievable that this is even happening. And it's really shocking that people are sitting by, especially all these politicians, definitely the Republicans that allowed this man to do this. He doesn't want to make anything right in America. What he wants to do is steal. He wants to maintain control, and he wants to be a king. And he's trying to take these different steps to be able to do that.
Our authoritarian leader just starts trying to turn our own military to face us, the people of this country. And the questions that are equally important in response to that right now are, number one, what will the troops do about that? And number two, what will we do?
I gotta agree. This is crazy. I cannot believe that we are in this type of position, and it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. Donald Trump is utilizing his position to try to become some idiot king. And that's not it, folks. He's telling the military to harm people. And if you don't believe me, get into this.
Until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night. And they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face of the police as the police are standing up there in uniform. They're standing and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face. And then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit.
You spit and we hit. Y'all know what? The most upsetting part about this is when you hear Black ass people sit up there and defend Trump. When I tell you, I just get a sense of I want to reach out and touch a MFer. That's exactly how I feel, because it doesn't even matter who or what party you vote for. This mother effer is a racist. Like, nobody can make this up. If you can't see that this man is a racist, something is wrong with you. Are y'all listening to this? And not only, yeah, he's going to DC because it has a large Black population, and he's trying to scout out all the cities where they have Black people in power to try to take them down. And I don't like people that support this asshole. This man is a racist, and this is really terrible. Imagine thinking that the ancestors fought for so many rights that we will live today and actually have Black MFers that actually are pro-Trump. This is very, very sad.
And they can hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, for 3-4 years. I've watched them. The police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any such, so this, and you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
So he's telling the police they can do whatever the hell they want to people. Do y'all see how dangerous this is? This is so dangerous on so many levels. This man is an ignorant. I don't understand for the life of me. This is an uneducated idiot. How many felonies does he have? 34 felonies? People can't even get jobs with one felony. 34 felonies, sued for touching a woman. And then not only that, what about his Epstein ties?
This dire public safety crisis stems directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership. The radical left city council adopted no cash.
Wait a minute, you got me laughing. Wait, I just saw your comment. You said, and when you have people on YouTube with dry wigs helping degrade us as Black men, it makes me even more upset. I'm a black man with black sons. Yeah, I don't buy into that. Like, I know it's some channels like that. I don't buy into that. I don't degrade women or men. I don't buy into those channels. But let me kind of tell you where that comes from. Because there's channels like that where men do it. For some reason, those channels make a lot of money. And I feel like people do that because they don't really care about the culture. They just want to say whatever they can say to make money. I feel like, you know, from a man's perspective and a woman's perspective, I think that there's a serious conversation that can be had. But I feel like, you know, when it comes to both parties, I mean, you can place blame on both. But I don't get into the degrading the women or degrading the men. There's some negatives, you know, that can be said from either standpoint, I don't even watch those channels. Like, even if you're degrading the man or woman, I don't watch it. I just can't, because for what it does is it just drives a further wedge into us as people. Like, you know, like I said, there are so many channels that they're down in the woman, and then there's the ones where they talk about the men are dusty and broke. And I'm just like, every man is not dusty and broke. Every woman is, you know, is not a baby mama. You know, it's just it's really sad. We got to do better. We definitely got to do better. I definitely agree. I don't prescribe to any of those channels. You know, I lost a couple thousand subscribers on my main channel strictly because, you know, we were having a conversation about the Diddy thing. Now, this is what I don't do. I don't just believe what people say because everybody believes that. And from my standpoint, I'm not saying that Diddy is, and I know this is totally off topic, but I felt like the women also played a role in that whole Diddy situation. I feel like he couldn't have been totally the blame because those women were paid. They were not locked up. They could leave. And they didn't like that I said that because they felt like since I was a woman, I should have been pro the women. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying that, you know, anything against the women, but I also felt like the women also had some responsibility in that. Oh, they didn't like that because a lot of times they feel like if you're a woman, you got to just believe what the women say. And I'm like, I don't believe that. So they got a lot of that here on YouTube, which is sad.
Cash bail. By the way, until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night, and they're not going to be fighting back long because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, you know, they love to spit in the face.
This is so concerning. When I heard this, I'm like, did he just say knock the hell out of him? You know, I'm just like, this is so sad. But I also feel like Donald Trump is getting away from the real issue, y'all. He's getting away from the real issue because did you all know that Donald Trump, wait, let me bring this up. Did you guys know that Donald Trump had 4,725 transfers to Epstein?
Donald Trump has made some far-fetched statements over the last few months, but a stunner in the last few days was his claim that the Jeffrey Epstein matter was a hoax and a scam. Here is why the president is wrong. The figure at the center of this story was an ultra-rich, well-connected sex trafficker. He was a serial rapist of women and young girls. And for some reason, the Trump administration, that claimed they'd be the most transparent administration ever, turned on a dime. The president had run on a campaign with a promise to expose the Epstein files. Now he and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, say, nope, nothing to investigate. When it comes to Epstein and sex trafficking, all these claims are just ludicrous. I want the American people to know that that's wrong. If you want to know why, just look at the latest report from our investigators that was discussed in the New York Times this morning. Now, somewhere in the Treasury Department, Mr. President, locked away in a cabinet drawer, is a big Epstein file that's full of actionable information. Follow the money details about his financing and operations that await investigation. Last year, the Biden administration allowed our investigators to look at portions of the file. We did that at the Treasury building. Here is what it says. Treasury's Epstein file details, Mr. President, 4,725 wire transfers. Let me repeat that. 4,725 wire transfers.
Okay. 4,725 wire transfers, y'all. 4,725 wire transfers. Donald Trump sent 4,725 wire transfers to Epstein. Why is Donald Trump sending money to an sex trafficker 4,725 times? I'm not talking about $4,725. I said he sent him money $4,725. I'm sorry, 4,725 and 25. I'm sorry, 4,725 times. So let's get into the total number. When he tells y'all the total number of how much money Donald Trump actually transferred, y'all not gonna believe this.
Adding up to nearly $1.1 billion.
$1.1 billion. This is too much. So why is not Donald Trump talking about damn near 4,800 transfers he sent Epstein to the tune of what? $1 billion? Why are we not talking about this? This is not right. Donald Trump is covering up what he did. He's doing all of this shit in DC and all of this old crap because he wants us to stop talking about this, because this makes no sense. Donald Trump, where's the property? Where's the deed? What did you buy from Epstein? We know exactly what you bought, Donald.
Dollars flowing in and out of just one of Mr. Epstein's bank accounts.
$1.1 billion total Donald Trump gave to a trafficker? Come on now. We just gonna sit up here and act like that's okay. We just gonna sit. Now, had this been Obama, if this had been Obama, they would be trying to put him in jail. If this had been Obama, this would be a whole nother conversation. But Donald Trump is allowed to interact with an sex trafficker and give him $1.1 billion? Yeah.
If you ask me, that is more than 4,000 potential lines of investigation right there. Hundreds of millions more flowed through other accounts. That's even a lot more to investigate. The file shows that Mr. Epstein used multiple Russian banks, which are now under sanctions, to process payments related to sex trafficking. A lot of the women and girls he targeted came from Russia, Belarus, Turkey, and elsewhere. One shudders to think about the kinds of people who must have been involved in trafficking these women and young girls out of those companies and into the Epstein web of abuse. Again, these are all potential leads, Mr. President, the Department of Justice ought to be digging into. This is about years and years of international sex trafficking. None of this is a hoax. None of it is a scam. And I'd like to say I consider it insulting to the intelligence of the American people for the Trump administration to simply say there is nothing to investigate here. Now, when the Trump administration came in with a lot of fanfare about transparency and openness, I said, I'm going to follow up on that. So I wrote to the Attorney General, Ms. Bondi, Treasury Secretary Bessent, FBI Director Patel, and I asked them all to produce the Epstein file to the Senate Finance Committee so it could be reviewed. In fact, I've made that request multiple times. The Trump commitment to transparency based on the response didn't mean a whole lot because they just refused. Here's what one Treasury official wrote back to me. I'll quote here. The Department of Treasury has previously made documents available relating to the matter in response to your inquiries. Accordingly, we understand that you have the information you seek from the Treasury related to this request. We thank you for your attention to this important issue. Mr. President, for anybody who's familiar with how these discussions go in Washington, D.C.
Now, I pretty much just wanted y'all to hear that part because nobody is talking about this. Why is nobody talking about this? I mean, when I saw that, I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, something is definitely going on here. Something is definitely going on. Donald Trump, you were buying something, and it definitely was nothing but some ASS. Let's just be real. And thank you, Measured Man, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Donald Trump was buying something, and it definitely was nothing but ass. I mean, let's just be serious. You were buying something that you had no business. But why is it that Donald Trump told us a long time ago? He said that, Jeffrey Epstein liked them young.
And on Epstein, Trump's comment to New York Magazine in 2002 stands out today. He gave that comment around the time period covered in today's indictment. The president said this, quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with." It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
What the hell is that? He likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. What? What do you mean many of them are on the younger side? I mean, so we just gonna sit here and act like none of this is happening while Donald Trump got the entire, National Guard in DC acting as if it's a problem, when we know, according to DC, that crime is down. So why in the hell is Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. fighting crime? I'll tell you why. Because Donald Trump wants to get people away from talking about this Epstein. He doesn't want people to talk about it. And how can he get that? Like, get y'all to stop talking about Epstein. He can just do more of what he's doing, and eventually people will start talking about what's going on in DC. They're going to talk about everything but the real issue here.
President Trump putting other major cities on notice as he takes over the DC police force and mobilizes 800 National Guard troops into the nation's capital. The president saying he wants federal agencies to combat crime that he believes is out of control. Let's bring in CNN chief data analyst Harry Inton to break these numbers down for us. So Harry, let's start first with, do DC residents actually want this?
No, they hate this whole idea. I think there's some idea out there that Trump's somehow a conquering hero, but he's in fact is welcomed in Washington, D.C. as Eagles fans are Commanders games. What are we talking about here? Well, take a look here. D.C. residents on Trump and local issues. He's too involved. Look at this. 71% say he is too involved. And this, of course, was even before Monday's actions, compared to just 11% who say they want him more involved. In fact, a majority of every single demo tested by the Washington Post in a poll earlier this year found that they believe that he was, in fact, too involved. D.C. residents hate hate this whole idea of Trump getting involved in local issues.
But how do they feel about crime? Do they agree with the president that this is something that's out?
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, right? D.C. residents on the top problem facing D.C., crime, violence, and guns in 2022 was 36%. But look at this. It dropped 15 points to 21% earlier this year. I should note that about 50% of D.C. residents do believe that crime is an extremely or very important problem, but even that 50% is down from 65% back in 2024. So D.C. residents, like the crime statistics themselves, suggest that crime is becoming less of an issue in our nation's capital. And at this particular point, just 21% of D.C. residents, in fact, believe that the top problem facing Washington, D.C. is crime, violence, and guns. And that might be part of the reason why D.C. residents, in fact, believe that Trump's getting too involved in local issues and won't exactly like this move.
And what does the data say about President Trump and his relationship to D.C., why he might have feelings about that?
Yeah, a lot of people have been concentrating on the policy of this decision by President Trump, but I think it's also important to point out the politics of this decision and just talk about one reason why Donald Trump might not like Washington, D.C., besides the crime issue. And that is because take a look at all of the counties or the county equivalents nationwide. We're talking over 3,000. Where did Donald Trump do the worst in 2024? Well, he did the worst in Washington, D.C., getting just 6.5% of the vote. The vast majority, 90% plus of D.C. voters went against Donald Trump. Again, I just think it's so important to point out that D.C. residents don't like this move, and they really don't like President Trump. They hate Donald Trump. They hate Republicans. Over and over again, they have voted against Donald Trump, voted against Republicans. And again, on the crime issue that's so important, a smaller and smaller percentage going down, believe it is the top problem in our nation's capital.
All right, interesting to dig into those numbers, Harry. Always good to see you.
Nice to see you.
John?
Well, this morning, some of the biggest voices in MAGA media.
So people are also saying that, again, Donald Trump is full of stunts. We can't believe nothing this man says. So one of the things that people were saying is Donald Trump had really low poll numbers in Washington, D.C. because, for one, what we do know is that this man is not in D.C. because he's concerned and he wants to help. This is not how you help D.C. And in fact, they have proven that not the poll numbers, they have pretty much proved that the crime is down. So if crime is down, why would nobody does this. So Donald Trump is looking out for himself. He's drunk with this power kick, trying to invade cities and take them over. But one thing that we are not going to get off topic is this Epstein. I want to know about these files. Why is Donald Trump not releasing these files?
And so, again, because the gentle lady from Georgia, I know is such an advocate.
Oh, that guy has too much music. Oh, I didn't realize that. Now, Pam Bondi, y'all, she said some time ago, oh, this is here. Wait a minute. Let me go there. She said she was going to release the files 5 months ago. That never happened. Wait a minute. Let me share my screen. Originally, they said they were going to release the files, and then they're not going to release the files, which is very suspect.
Through text.
Okay,
so this
only
is the first
through
time in person. Thank you.
So, big cabinet meeting today. What happened that we don't know about when the cameras weren't rolling?
You know, once the hour-long press conference, they throw every question in the world at Donald Trump, and look how he answers. He's amazing, and he just keeps going and going and going, and he knows more than all of the media put together. And so then once they finally left, we got down to business, and we went around the room, and the president just basically asked a lot of us what was going on within our departments. And, what you shared from Marco earlier is so true. We all have known each other, the majority of us, for so long, and we're friends, and that's what makes a difference. Jesse, we pick up the phone. We're on the phone with each other constantly, all of us, on every issue you've talked about already in your monologue, and others almost daily.
We talk constantly at the cabinet level, and that's why we're getting things done so fast for Donald Trump and to make America great again. You know, I got to talk about today 2 big drug arrests that we made yesterday through the FBI, and I'm so happy I have Kash Patel in there, by the way, thank goodness. But we made a huge meth arrest, methamphetamine in Wyoming, hundreds of pounds of methamphetamine. Arkansas yesterday, 100 pounds of methamphetamine. Think how many people that can kill. And they lace that stuff, they lace the meth with fentanyl. So we're out there fighting every day to save lives, domestically and internationally.
One of the things a lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk, is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims, 200. So
now keep in mind, guys, she was speaking on the Jeffrey Epstein. I think this is like 5 or 6 months ago. She was telling us it was all of this information. But I believe what happened, they told the people they was going to release it. But once they got those files and start going through them, they realized who was really in those files.
we have well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, you know, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being.
Oh, wait a minute. 5 months ago, Pam Bondi said they were going to release the information. But what happened? Because we never got it.
Released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah. What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well, we'll
along
look for
with his
that.
co-defendant.
It's crazy. It's really sick what that man did. But we just watched Donald Trump. They explained that Donald Trump's bank account showed that he had been wiring money to Jeffrey Epstein. So wouldn't Donald Trump be sick too? This is not making any sense.
Absolutely. And he had help. That's for sure.
He sure did.
We're hearing reports that there was an investigation opened into 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞, who may have thrown honeypots at Donald Trump back in the 2015, 2016 years. Is that true?
Jesse, I don't know anything about what you're saying about 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 right now.
Okay. That was a report.
Don't know anything about that.
That was a report that was cited in the Washington Times. I'll take it at that. We're hearing a lot about Doge.
Exactly, Measure Man. Ghislaine is a convicted sex offender serving 20 years. So the crime that she's been convicted of is very serious. People like her do not go to minimum camps. This woman suddenly, after talking to Donald Trump's people, is moved to a minimum. They said she did not even qualify to be there based on her charges. They said they had to manipulate their computer system to be able to accept her transfer because it's just not something that can be done. If anybody knows anything about jail, depending on what you're going to jail for, everybody has like a security, different type of security based on what you're there for. So let's say you did like a white collar crime. You don't have a high level of security. People who have harmed other people, sex traffickers, they have a large security. So they can't be in minimum places. So Ghislaine suddenly was moved to a minimum after she spoke to Donald Trump's people asking if she had any information on him. Well, of course she has information on Donald Trump. Donald Trump was with her ex-man a lot. And based on the research that they already did, Donald Trump had wired this man over $1 billion. What did Donald Trump buy from Epstein? Because all he has to do is tell us what he bought. But I think that's the problem.
Has DOJ been an issue for the Department of Justice? Are you guys getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse?
So to say DOJ has been an
And the most interesting part about this is originally Pam Bondi, this idiot right here, told us she was going to release the files. Something happened that ultimately they said, oh, we don't really need to release the files because it's nothing to see. Now, if it was nothing to see, why did you tell us you were going to release the files? And Cream of Wheat, I see what you're putting in the chat. You're absolutely right. Whatever we get will be redacted, but I know this part to be true. Whenever there is a victim, they are supposed to redact anybody that is a minor, because I know this just from getting police reports. Whenever it's a police report, let's say you get a police report and at the time that the crime was committed, that person was a minor. Let's say it's 30 years from now and that person is an adult. They still have to redact it. So I do know that, but I don't think that is the reason why we are not receiving the files. I believe we are not receiving the files because they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Donald Trump, I believe Donald Trump's name is all through there. As she just said, Epstein pretty much recorded everything. So I don't think we're going to get anything. I don't think they're going to release the files. I believe perhaps when Donald Trump leaves, I think they're going to destroy it. I don't think we're going to get anything. I don't think we're going to get anything. Yeah, I don't think he's going to release anything. Donald Trump is never going to tell on himself. He's nothing but a scammer and a thug. He's never, ever going to tell on himself. So we'll never get those files. Unfortunately, it's just something that we're just not going to ever get. So unfortunately, and you can kind of know just pretty much from everything that has happened, Donald Trump has to be in the Epstein files. Why would he go and have his people meet with somebody that's in jail for messing with children? Like, how does that even look? Why would he do that? That's because Donald Trump is concerned about what she may say about him. And think about it. This woman is in there for 20 years. She will say anything to get a pardon. You know, Donald Trump can't pardon her. So, of course, she's going to say anything to get what it is she wants. Keep in mind, this woman is in prison for 20 years. So now Donald Trump has taken this woman out of a maximum prison and put her in a place where it's no gates. I mean, of course. She's going to do anything that he wants her to do. I mean, if you think about it, if anybody was facing 20 years, I don't know one person that wouldn't say whatever it is a person wants them to say to be able to get out of their situation. So we'll never get the truth from her. She'll never tell us the truth for the simple fact you're talking about a person who's in jail who wants to get out. So we kind of like in a really bad situation here. We are in a very, very bad situation with Donald Trump and the things that he's saying with regards to, telling the police they have the right to, abuse and, hurt regular, everyday people is sad. I mean, when I heard this just made me sick to my stomach.
Of the police, as the police are standing up there in uniform, they're standing and they're screaming at him an inch away from their face, and then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit, and they can hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, for 3-4 years. I've watched them. The police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any search. So this, and you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
The police are allowed to do anything they want to do to us as regular people. Whatever they want to do, they can do it. Whatever the police wants to do to you, to me, they can do it. Did y'all just hear this bullshit? what is this? You can do whatever you want to do because I'm Donald Trump. So you don't got to worry about anything. Do y'all know how dangerous this is? Do y'all know how many bad cops we have? Now, every cop ain't bad, and every cop, unfortunately, is not good. But when you're making those type of statements, that's very dangerous. That's very dangerous. But Donald Trump don't give a damn because who are the people that's usually affected by this type of shit? It's not him. It's not his color of people. It's always black people, brown people. This man don't give a F-U-C-K. And it's very sad that people voted for him. I just don't understand why anybody would want to vote for him. It just doesn't make any sense. I just couldn't understand. I don't know if people thought voting for Donald Trump, maybe they was going to get a check. I wouldn't give a damn what he was giving out. I didn't want it. I just did not want a criminal thug as a president because there will be no black man in America that could be president with one felony, but 34 or 36. I mean, how is this possible? This is very sad. We're living in a very, very sad time. And if this were Barack Obama, he would be impeached. He would be gone the hell up out of here. Donald Trump is doing a lot of things that is totally unconstitutional. And what about what he's doing to the DC mayor, Miss James? Did y'all hear about that? Let me see if I can find that. I think it's Lakeysha James. Let me find it. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, her name is it Lathea? Just James. She's a New York attorney general. So the New York attorney general is the lady that brought charges against Trump. Keep in mind, Trump did a jury trial. He was found guilty. So now he wants to go against her because he's mad because he was convicted. All of this, this retaliation, it just needs to stop. So now he's going after her because he was convicted. But ultimately, she's not the one that convicted him. It was the people that was on the jury that convicted him.
Sources tell CBS News the Department of Justice issued 2 subpoenas to the office of New York Attorney General Lakeysha James. It comes more than a year after James won a civil fraud case against President Trump for hundreds of millions of dollars. Let's bring in CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen for much more on this investigation. Jake, thanks for joining us. What is the latest about the subpoena and what are they for?
Well, that's right, Mughal. We already knew that Lakeysha James was under investigation for alleged mortgage fraud. We reported that back in May when the Department of Justice.
So keep in mind, Donald Trump was convicted of mortgage fraud. So now he's trying to come after this New York attorney general for the same thing that he did. Like, Donald Trump was convicted of inflating property values and doing a whole list of fraud as it results, to his business and all these other properties. So essentially what he's trying to do is come after the very person who charged him. But although she charged him, it was still up to the jury to convict him, which they did. So now he's coming after her. Imagine a president that don't got shit else to do. He should be making the world better, but he's spending his time going after people in other cities, the attorney general. This is crazy.
And Trump administration launched this investigation led by the FBI into that aspect of James's personal dealings. Now the Department of Justice has made it about her, specifically about her going after President Trump and his allies. As you just mentioned, the investigation, the civil lawsuit that resulted in $355 million fine, that has then been appealed. We really have not heard from an appeals court on that for a long time. That doesn't mean President Trump has forgotten about it. And the Department of Justice is opening an investigation. A grand jury has been convened in that case to potentially go after her for potentially violating President Trump's legal rights in that investigation. You'll remember it was about the Trump Organization, President Trump and his children, and how they handled and ran that organization in which they were convicted in a civil way of fraud. Also, at the same time, the National Rifle Association, which has long been in Lakeysha James's crosshairs as she leads all legals going on from the state level in New York, the investigation by the Department of Justice is also going into them as well. So there have been 2 subpoenas, both specifically about her handling of this. And you'll remember James did went after the NRA successfully at first to get kind of the corporate death penalty to punish them for a number of things, including fraud. And that has since been appealed as well.
And Jake, you touched on my next question earlier, but we know there's a history between President Trump, and James. Can you break some of that down for us? Because it just certainly seems like it's not over yet. And now that Trump is in office, here the Justice Department is going after James.
Yeah, and President Trump has made no secret in both his first administration and since then into now, and these current going on when he has a Department of Justice that is willing to launch these kinds of investigations into people like Lakeysha James, who made no secret about her willingness to open and eventually go after the Trump organization and President Trump for the fraud that they had committed. At the same time, President Trump had been calling it a witch hunt. He testified in that case in front of her, calling her that, and then would go out and talk to the press about it. He pledged to go after people like her.
Somebody put this in the chat, and I know there's not a person on this earth that I hate. I may have to reconsider that. I think Donald Trump may be the first person in my life that I absolutely hate. This man is spending his time going after people. This is the craziest shit that I've ever heard in my life. This is a president of the United States going after regular people. This is too much. Like, you can't make this shit up. How is the president going? This is way too much. This is way too much. And people are just sitting by allowing this shit to happen. Donald Trump essentially has hired all his cronies in the Department of Justice to go after people that he don't like. This is too much. I don't like watching it, but I have to, because if I don't know what's going on. This is so messed up. And the fact that I know Donald Trump's support is dying down, but Donald Trump shouldn't have no damn support. Why are people supporting this bullshit?
Calling her and a number of other people leaders of this witch hunt that was against him. And it hasn't slowed down. And think about the number of people, Chris Krebs, Miles Taylor, a number of other high profile people who took legal steps or came out against him to call him out, who have been retaliated against in some form of another. This is yet the latest development in Lakeysha James' case, as the Department of Justice has now expanded their investigation to not just go after her personally, but to go after her office and the investigations that have been launched.
Yes.
So now they're pumping fear in people, scaring people. Donald Trump really needs to go to damn jail for the rest of his life. He don't need to get out. This is the definition of a thug. He is Donald Trump. The word thug, it should have his picture. This is a man that has 34 felonies on his record. Okay. 34 felonies. He still hasn't learned his lesson and is still pretty much doing the same thing. This doesn't make any sense. No sense at all. This makes no sense. This is crazy. This is a mess. Going after regular, everyday people. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. This is too much. This is too much. Something has to be done about this. This is too much. We got to know what's going on, and that's correct. When the primaries come out, we have to make sure we're voting, but the redistricting doesn't have anything to actually do with the primaries. What they're trying to do is they're trying to alleviate the Democratic seats because they want to make room for more Republicans. They want to eliminate. And another thing too, Donald Trump has gone after Jasmine Crockett with trying to alleviate her entire district. So his entire presidency is about going against people he don't like. This is some bullshit. Like, it's the entire administration is a joke, a bunch of ignorant, unqualified, uneducated individuals. And what is going to be done about this? What is going to be done about this? It's too much. It's definitely too much.